This is Chiikawa. Their name is derived from chisakute kawaii yatsu, Japanese for the one that is small and cute. Chiikawa originates from a web manga by Nagano that has blown up in Japan, spawning an anime adaptation, many collabs, and a plethora of goods in a Sanrio-like fashion. I'm going to go over the surprisingly dark nature of the world this creature resides in. Warning, spoilers for the manga up to chapter 1000. Chiikawa lives in an idyllic little forest with fellow critters, spending most of their days frolicking with friends and eating good food. Their closest friends are Hachiware, a friendly cat-like creature, and Usagi, who is chaos incarnate. He's my favorite. There's something wrong with this little guy. Hachiware is the only one in the main trio who speaks fluently, although they do get words mixed up and have a very childlike speech pattern. Usagi only makes noises like and Chiikawa mostly gestures, talks in pictographs, sounds, and simple words like The critters earn money by taking up jobs that seem to be managed by these yoroi-san, which are humanoid creatures wearing yoroi armor. The main source of income that we have seen so far are weed pulling, fruit labeling, and monster hunting. That's right, it's not all sunshine and rainbows in Chiikawa Town. There are a variety of monsters that occasionally show up to ruin a good day. Even in this fantastical world where gummies grow on bushes and pizza dough falls out of the sky, there are still monsters that prefer the taste of critter flesh. The first appearance of a monster in the manga is quite early, in chapter 6, as a juxtaposition to Chiikawa. Their name is Dekatsuyo, which comes from dekakute tsuyoi, big and strong. Chiikawa is introduced in this way.
I want to become something like this. Some kind of small and cute creature, and wear silly hats like this, and parade in front of everyone and get complimented. I want to go back home in a good mood and fall asleep in a bed that's like cotton.
Adorable, right? And then in comes this thing.
I want to become something like this. Some kind of big and strong creature. If someone irritates me, I will slam them to the ground with a loud bang. Dash around at the speed of sound. Devour food for survival and ignite my fighting spirit.
When I first read this, I was like, okay, that was different. Most chapters of Chiikawa are more like the first example I showed about simple, silly little joys in life. But then there's these weird chapters that you kind of shrug off, only for them to keep returning and giving you a sense of unease. Like this scene of Chiikawa having a run-in with monsters all by themselves.
なっちゃったからにはもうね。
だからなんだってんだよ。なんだってんだよ、だから。
In the story of Chiikawa, there's a chapter where the main protagonists are playing with Sylvanian family dolls, only for a witch to appear and turn them into the dolls. Their real bodies become limp, and the witch scoops them up, saying that there's someone who wants to become something like this. Huh, where have we heard that before? They are able to escape and return to normal, and then they end off by eating something weird from a lake. Hachiware says that they should bite the stringy part and spit it out? It looks like a Pokemon? That was weird. Anyway, shortly after, Momonga makes their first appearance, running out of an alleyway seemingly in a big rush, saying this. Huh. That's a little weird. Anyway, Hachiware and Chiikawa also sort of become friends with this Yoroi-san, who likes to make accessories and later clothes for the little critters. It's pretty cute. I like this guy a lot. He gets lightly chastised by superiors for getting too close to the critters, but I mean, can you blame him? They're pretty adorable. Later, we see Momonga being chased by Dekatsuyo, shouting, "Give it back!" Momonga refuses, to the chagrin of the monster. Huh. That's a little weird. Anyway, the main trio finds a magic wand that grants wishes when you swish and flick. Hachiware has been wanting a camera, and so makes one appear with the power of the wand. Strangely, this camera makes whatever you take a picture of disappear. Suddenly, Hachiware and Usagi begin changing into monsters. The wand seems to have a negative effect on those who used it. They begin losing control of themselves, but thankfully Chiikawa snaps the wand and returns them to normal. Phew, that was a little weird. Anyway, time to eat a little midnight snack to feel better. Later, the gang is hanging out in their adorable little pajamas courtesy of their friend Yoroi-san, and wish upon this freaky-looking shooting star. Meanwhile, the monster sees it as well, and makes a wish we aren't privy to. They look really sad. Chiikawa makes a friend at the lemon labeling factory. They learn to put some money in a frog-shaped pouch in exchange for snacks, and they share with each other, bonding over having the same color pajamas. We love seeing friendship in Critterland. We see the main trio being lifted on these little helicopter things on their way to a hunt. They find this chimera-looking monster and attack on sight. The monster is strong and overwhelms them. The monster takes notice of Chiikawa in particular and points at a frog, seemingly trying to tell them something. Usagi chases the monster away, and they decide maybe they're not ready for a big hunt yet. The way they go back is pretty funny. They send out a flare and are picked up by the helicopter things again. When Chiikawa goes back to their lemon labeling job, they notice their new friend isn't there anymore. Disappointed, they go and cheer themselves up with a snack by putting money in the frog-shaped pouch. If you've put two and two together, you will see that the critters become the very monsters that they hunt. How exactly this happens and why, we don't know. Interacting with a cursed object like the magic wand seems to speed up the process, but I'm pretty sure that it's just a matter of when, and not if, a critter becomes a monster. This would explain why Yoroi-sans are instructed not to get too close to the critters, as they would have to be put down when they become dangerous monsters one day. Does that make every monster we see a critter? Not necessarily. Is it possible for a monster to become a critter? Sure seems like it from how Momonga behaves. The way they appeared was a big hint, and in general, Momonga acts very differently from the other critters that we know of. They're greedy, selfish, and vain. They're always actively trying to look cute. I'm not saying that critters can't act this way, but Momonga is the only one we've seen to this extreme while having very suspicious origins. Whoever was the original owner of Momonga's squirrely body has become trapped in the monster body of Dekatsuyo instead. In chapter 401 to 410, the trio have a body swap episode because of a cursed slot machine. After Momonga catches wind of this ordeal, he decides it's dangerous to have around and destroys it. I'm glad he found out about it after the trio got back in their original bodies, because God knows Momonga wouldn't give a flying fuck. He just wants to make sure that there's no chance of the original owner of his body switching back. In chapter 901 to 910, Momonga has a run-in with the witch that we saw earlier and makes the comment, "Is this the witch from that time?" So it seems Momonga did have help, and the original Momonga was turned into a skin suit before being put on. There's a very sad chapter checking in on how he's doing in his current body, and he's struggling. He has dreams of how he used to be, and doesn't like to sleep because he wakes up hoping that this horrible experience was all just a nightmare, but becomes disappointed when he realizes it's his reality. We get updates on the monsters we know once in a while, as you can see here. The lemon label factory worker, now known as Anoko, absolutely dunks on a pack of hunters, sending one flying, and then reminisce on their time as a critter. The thought of how strong they've become seems to make them pretty happy. They're starting to enjoy being a monster. Now here's something else that's fucked up. I mentioned briefly before, but there are magic areas in this world that grow food. Fish broth comes out of trees instead of sap. Bread grows on trees. There's geysers that burst out with candy. Sometimes it rains red beans. There's a rice cooker in the ground that fills up with rice infinitely. Or does it? There's a few chapters where all these food sources seem to dry up and there's a food shortage. Momonga, the little cretin, sees Chiikawa scrounging up berries and instead of eating that, decides to have a taste of Chiikawa instead. He's not beating the monster allegations. Shortly after, we see Anoko contemplating before beginning to eat critters. And then, the food sources all come flowing back, with our focus being on a geyser that spits out buns. With meat in them! So there's clearly some kind of natural order to this world. Critters eat magic food. Monsters eat critters, and critters become magic food. The critters all seem to be oblivious to this, but are the Yoroi-san? These guys are pretty big and tough, but they basically send the critters out like cannon fodder to subdue the monsters instead of fighting themselves. Because that's what the natural order is. Anoko becomes disturbingly comfortable with being a monster, even luring in hunters by pretending to be friendly, only to attack when they lower their guard and get close. The poor critter who suggested they be friends is the only one that is spared, ironically, leading to a heartbreaking scene where they bitterly cry about their mistake of trusting a monster. Momonga's previous body owner is pretty freaked out by Anoko, but they get talking. The lion monster explicitly asks if Anoko's body got taken. But no, it had just happened all of a sudden. Maybe things were getting stressful at the lemon labeling factory, and this is a critter's version of a midlife crisis. Who knows, man, shit's fucked. They seem to get pretty friendly later on, and Anoko even tries to cheer up ex-Momonga by giving them an ice cream cone, even if it's just a critter. Ex-Momonga is pretty horrified, and makes Anoko let the critter go. It seems ex-Momonga has yet to eat any critters. For now. The longest arc in the story as of writing this is also quite dark. It involves every character being invited to a vacation island where they're promised 100 times the usual reward for a hunt. The number one hunter, Rako, makes a great point. It sounds fucking suspicious. Listen up, if you ever see something like this, offering easy money for a destination job that's too good to be true, it's usually human trafficking. Stay safe and smart out there. Now, unfortunately, critters have a brain smaller than a peanut, so they all decide to go. They meet several monsters, a siren and 2 mermaids that have been attacking the local village people after one of their mermaids had been taken and eaten, allegedly. For those who are unaware, it's a popular myth that eating the flesh of a mermaid will grant you eternal life. The siren has already thought of a fitting punishment, to put them in a perfectly sized cage and to submerge the critter in there for eternity. The village people were the ones that put up the hunt request to kill the siren to stop their attacks. But even after the siren's motive is revealed to them, No one in the village owns up to it, and honestly at this point I was thinking that maybe it was all a misunderstanding and that the mermaid had decided to hide amongst the critters instead. Maybe they had fallen in love or something. However, this is Chiikawa, and they like to subvert the subversion of expectations. It's revealed that the suspicious pair of critters that have been tagging along with Chiikawa's group really were the culprits the whole time. As they have no distinguishable features, I'm going to refer to them as Ichi and Ni from here on. The siren had accidentally injured Ni while they were out playing, to the point of critical condition. Ichi decides to lure and murder one of the mermaids, cook its flesh, and feed it to Ni. Ni immediately recovers, but upon learning what had happened, insists that they both eat the meat, so that they would be together for eternity instead of alone. Ichi agrees, and they become accomplices. They were all able to chase away the siren at the end and return home, but Ichi and Ni are nowhere to be found. They decide to row out to a deserted island to live out their days together in seclusion. But as we can see, the siren has caught on and is right behind them. Bleak! That's all I can say about this. The thing about the stories in Chiikawa that have these darker elements is that you feel a sense of dread hanging over you the whole time, only for it to never be fully resolved. It just ends with more dread. By the way, during this whole thing, Momonga just makes things worse by also wanting to eat the mermaids for eternal life. Their greed sickens me. Something about these stories in Chiikawa just make me feel a pit in my stomach that I can only compare to seeing something you're not supposed to as a child. It's the feeling that something is wrong, but you don't know what it is. One of the chapters that gave me goosebumps, 661 to 670, after Chiikawa and Usagi defeat a creature that was giving Chiikawa nightmares. It looks like a brand new day, and Chiikawa is walking towards Hachiware's house, which is just a cave because he is functionally homeless. The housing market is in shambles. As he approaches, we see a giant paw with sharp blue claws at the mouth of the cave. It says, "I've turned into this." Ahahaha. Chiikawa looks in. And Hachiware does a bunch of silly dances. Oh, and the paw on the ground, it's just a piece of fried chicken. Ha 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 ha. Chiikawa wakes up. It was just a dream. He goes to Hachiware's place, same as in the dream, and sees Hachiware is doing just fine. It was just a scary dream. He's even already had a similar dream about Usagi. Anyways, we see this idea revisited in chapters 831 to 840, where Hachiware gets teleported into an alternate reality where everything's a little different. For Chiikawa, it seems like things are a little better. Usagi's about the same. They've just got shears for ears. Go off, King. Hachiware has to find a way to get out of this universe before their body completely assimilates. And while that happens, we see their paws have become kind of familiar. With a stronger body, they're able to remove the source of the issue and go home. But not before Chiikawa rejects them in their monstrous form. Once he returns, it seems he wants to ask the Chiikawa in his original universe if he would still be his friend even if he were a monster. But he decides not to. I think this is something that will have to be answered eventually, and so we keep waiting, with this hanging over ours and Hachiware's head. By the way, there was a tree dude in the alternate universe who says he wishes that he could go back. I feel so bad for him. This series is so mean to these poor little creatures. In conclusion, while I'm usually a fan of dark storylines and subverting expectations, I'm not sure how I feel about it in Chiikawa. It's just a little too out of place with how child-friendly it all seems. although the contrast does make it pretty funny. This series is officially rated as seinen, which means that it's for adults, but I would not fault kids or parents for not checking before watching. I have a very, very vivid memory of what it was like to be a child, and some of these episodes would have definitely given me nightmares, especially if I watched it without knowing what I was getting into. I guess you could argue that all children's media has moments like this. I mean, I was also scared of the hash-slinging slasher growing up, but Chiikawa isn't for children. I think it's okay for Chiikawa to just be cute, wholesome, and childlike. It already has elements of real life for children and adults to relate to when it comes to struggling with things like school and work, or how to handle little disappointments. There's even an alcoholic character. He deals with the real-life struggle of hangovers. I would honestly be more appreciative of Momonga's character if they were just a bratty critter from the beginning. Them being socially oblivious, wanting attention, these are things that are all relatable. But he's not normal. He's actually a literal monster wearing a kawaii skin suit. Wouldn't it be more interesting if there were kind monsters in this world and Momonga juxtaposed them by being an evil critter? For how deep the story can be, it's still surprisingly cursory in the way that it's executed sometimes. I do have to say though that the darker elements are definitely indicative of the creator unapologetically drawing what they want. After all, I don't think anyone was asking for more existential dread and horror to Chiikawa. And I gotta respect that. And for making my goat Usagi. Anyway, those are my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you all think about the darker lore of Chiikawa. There are still a few weird story arcs that I haven't covered, so definitely check out the manga and anime for yourselves if you're curious. There's even a time loop in one of them. This is the first time I've done a video in the style of an essay, so let me know if you liked it and if I should do more. If you stuck around this far, please do hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see ya Nara.